Welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021, so it's time to get nerdy. Welcome to episode 185 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the multiverse. I am Maction, and I have my fellow nerd and connoisseur of comedy, not only the first option, but also the best option, Mr. Lam Galuka, also known as Mr. Nice Guy 425, and quick shout out to our returning sponsor, Game Insider Magazine. Mr. Nice Guy, how are you doing, friend?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. Spent the weekend up in the MKE, Milwaukee, with the family, doing a little bit of house hunting, doing a little bit of swimming, social distance, and doing a lot of eating of good food. It was a great weekend, man. Shout out to, there's this fantastic soul food place in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin called Arlanders. And Mac, you lived in Detroit for a while.
Yeah.
You served some time there in the prison, right? And no, I'm just kidding. You lived in Detroit for a while, and so you probably had some soul food.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment?
It's-
So, Arlanders fried chicken, phenomenal. Every southern side that you could want, right? Baked beans, mac and cheese, collard greens, yams, cornbread. I think they just have regular rice. Like they have it all, and then they have peach cobbler. And on Fridays they do nothing but catfish as far as meat. It's just phenomenal food. So every time I'm up there, we get it, and then I exercise for 3 days to burn it off. So today is day 1 of that exercise, and I have 2 more days to go. But it was a great weekend, man. How was yours?
Oh man, my weekend was pretty darn good as well. Spent most of it just kind of here at the house, spending time with Mrs. the Mac. Just the two of us having a good time. We watched some television. We hung out, read some books. I mean, it was really just a nice, relaxing weekend. And sometimes you don't realize just how busy and involved everything is until you take a minute, sit back and read a book.
Yes.
And then you realize just how fast and go.
Go gadget, right?
Yeah, go gadget arm right to a book, and then you'll make the world go away. And that's, how it works out.
Yeah. No, dude, that's dope. No, I see you have some new gear in the background. Is that a Rubik's Cube that I'm seeing? Maybe I need to make your camera bigger on the way.
Over my left shoulder?
Oh, that's not a Rubik's Cube. Yeah, it would be your right shoulder.
My right? Oh no, that's the storage bins that I put my perlers into. So that's why it looks square and multicolored. But yeah, that was my storage solution for perlering so that I could make things with it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, on that note, I say we do what we do best. And hop right into that gaming news, my friend. What do you think about that?
Let's get it done.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is episode number 185 of Two Nerds in a Pod, nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. And Mac, let's just go off script for a minute. Someone in the chat just mentioned that there is a House of the Dead remake that's coming out. And I wasn't going to talk about that today, but I did read about it. Any experience on your end with House of the Dead? Any fond memories of the arcade shooter that is known as House of the Dead?
So the interesting thing, Mr. Nice Guy, is that I used to live in a big city. I will not mention its name at this time, but I used to live in a big city, and I kind of moved out of the big city to a place where there were no arcades, right at that point in time in my life where I would have been most into arcades, especially shooters.
Sure.
And so it kind of wasn't until I got the chance to work at an arcade in the little town that I was in, which had a very limited selection of games, that I really gained a love and appreciation for the arcade. So, unfortunately, House of the Dead, I think you and I might have played it together at Galloping Ghosts.
We may have, now that I think about it.
But that would be the extent of it. just the tiniest bit of Lethal Enforcers and just a skosh of Time Crisis, and that's and that's the extent of my at least arcade shooters.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, House of the Dead to me, like, it's funny how games that were like bad, right? And when I say
Okay.
bad, I mean like you're not supposed to play that. You're a kid, right? Like Mortal Kombat is the
Oh.
worst. Like now when you look at those games, it's almost comical, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, these pixels don't look like blood at all, right? And I think that House of the Dead was kind of that type of thing where like at the time it's like, oh, this is so scary. They're getting closer, and if you don't shoot it, they're gonna get you and you're gonna have nightmares. And now it's like, oh, this is just funny, right? Like even if my kids were to play it, not that I would have them play it, they'd probably be like, "Dad, this is not a good game. Like this is not scary at all." Right? So sometimes games don't age well. So I think that this game of all arcade games is one that needs a remake. So I'm excited to see what they end up doing with it. We'll see how it turns out. So, on that note, let's talk about some other old games that came up in the news this week. This is on Kotaku.com by Luke Blunkett. Rockstar haven't just spent the week messing around with their Steam listings for no reason. Not long after accidentally bringing Midnight Club 2 back for a few minutes, folks discovered that Max Payne 3 and LA Noir's Steam versions now include all of their DLC for free. As Eurogamer report, the bundling means everything except for LA Noir's VR missions are now included for free when you buy the basic versions of both games. Maybe it's a stealth marketing move. Maybe it's just the result of a Rockstar intern clicking every checkbox that they could on the back end. But if there's free stuff, who cares how it got there? Mac, what do you think, man? All DLC on decade old games being released for free, marketing ploy or accidental button click? What do you think?
Man, let's see. Who is currently in control of those games?
What do you mean?
Well, I think whether or not it's a marketing ploy or whether it's an accident because they would not have wanted you to have it depends on who's the one behind the scene. Like, if it's EA who's in control of it, total accident, not meant to be happening, somebody misclicked. If it's a game, or if it's a game company more like Blizzard, then probably something meant to foster some goodwill. But, maybe that's just me being a little bit cynical.
Yeah. Additionally this week, and it was just a rumor, so I didn't really bring it up. We have, rumors of GTA 6, right? And some Vice City, type images going around. So, I don't know. It's one of those things like there was a Super Bowl several years ago where someone accidentally ripped off an article of clothing right before her CD was about to come out, right? So sometimes these things are not so accidental. Like I can't believe that Rockstar just accidentally made DLC free on games that no one is talking about anymore. But I think that this is probably a marketing ploy to bring more attention to Rockstar and maybe a big announcement. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but
I mean, I suppose it's always possible. But I mean, I don't know. It's a wobbler. We'll see.
we'll have to wait and see. Chat, let us know what you think. Welcome everybody who's here live. We appreciate all of you. All right, let's move on to some more news stories. So this next one is about a program that we are both using right now, Mac. It is about the great, the lovely Discord, which we use for our video chat during these streams. This is on GameInformer.com by Marcus Stewart. Discord has reportedly ended any and all talks of being acquired by outside parties, including Microsoft. In March, it was reported that Microsoft was one of several potential suitors hoping to buy the popular social app for the fine tune of $10 billion. That's with a B. The Wall Street Journal reports that sources close to the matter have claimed Discord has decided to remain independent. According to sources, Discord's reasoning appears to be a simple one. The company is performing well on its own. Its current value sits at around $7 billion with over 300 million registered users as of 2020. So, Mac, how do you feel about it, man? We had talked about, Discord might go public. We had talked about this a few weeks ago. We had talked about, who would we want to buy it? If Microsoft bought it, would they try to tie it into Game Pass? If Amazon bought it, would they make it part of Amazon Prime? Like, how do you feel about them staying independent overall?
Fairly happy about it, if I'm honest. I didn't see much advantage to being picked up by any of the others. And yeah, I like the idea of keeping the same people at the helm because I feel like the devil I know is doing a pretty reasonable job. I feel like I like the direction that Discord has been heading, and I would kind of hate for that to change. Now, I did at the time say that I figured of those that we had heard about, Microsoft has shown themselves capable of keeping to a vision after they pick up something. But, you know, it's always a big unknown when leadership changes hands.
Yeah, so you're 100% right, and we're actually going to talk about that whole concept in just a second. Um, Galvatron, who often says intelligent things in the chat and is a good friend of the show, just said something that I think is not so intelligent. Galvatron, I'm going to call you out on this comment. He says there's no way that Microsoft offered $10 billion for Discord. The company hasn't turned a profit yet, and they cannot be more lucrative than ZeniMax. ZeniMax is, of course, a reference to the fact that Microsoft recently, and Kane is agreeing with him, ZeniMax is a reference to the fact that Microsoft recently purchased Bethesda, right? Why would Discord have to be more lucrative than ZeniMax in order for Microsoft to want to buy them? Sometimes people buy companies that haven't turned a profit simply because they see potential in them. It says here that Discord is valued at $7 billion. Obviously, in order to buy them, Microsoft would need to offer more than $7 billion and then monetize them. With 300 million registered users, I can't believe that Microsoft could not make it a profitable acquisition. So I guess I just don't agree with that logic. I understand what you're trying to say, though. So I'm with Mac, though. I'm happy they didn't get bought. I like Discord the way it is, and I don't really want a third party to come in and ruin it. It's my playground, right? So cool. So let's keep things moving. Mac, we just talked about ownership changing hands and the effect that it can have. What a transition. This is about our good friend. Just kidding. I never met the guy. Jeff Kaplan of Blizzard Studios. This is on on Polygon.com by Michael McWhirter. Overwatch game director Jeff Kaplan is leaving Blizzard Entertainment. The company announced the personnel change on the game's official website Tuesday, naming Aaron Keller, Overwatch assistant game director, as Kaplan's replacement in the role. Kaplan was frequently the public face of Overwatch, appearing front and center in development update videos at BlizzCon and at Overwatch League events. Blizzard did not specify why Kaplan was leaving, nor did Kaplan himself in a statement released on the Overwatch website. And then he just has this statement here that says he's leaving after 19 years and he's had a really good time and never accept the world as it appears to be. Always dare to see it for what it could be. Mac, like, I have strong opinions when someone leaves a studio. People always like make a big deal about it. Like, oh no, the person who started this is leaving. Do you think that those are valid concerns? Like, they say he's the face of the game publicly. What do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, that kind of goes back to what we were saying a minute ago, and I think I'd even be willing to repeat my refrain in this time. It's that, you know, you can have a continuation of the ideas and the principles of a company continue forward. While I think, for example, a company that I know you love, Apple, I mean, Steve Jobs is no longer with us, but Tim Cook has been pressing forward, and it seems like a lot of people think that he is keeping true in most part to a vision and a path that Steve Jobs would have approved.
Right, and like, so people forget there are so many people on the team for these games. I don't want to undermine the importance of leadership. It's important, right? Having someone be the face of a game, be a community manager is important, but there's a lot of people who are familiar with making the game good, right? I think about when Robert Bowling, left Infinity Ward and Vince Zampella and West. Call of Duty is still coming out and it's still fantastic, right? If you like that type of thing. So it sucks when those people leave, right? I don't want to say that Robert Bowling and Vince and West were not, influential in making that game great, but these things move on. And I know that the same thing is going to happen with Blizzard and with Overwatch. So I don't worry about it as much as a lot of other gamers do. But shout out to Jeff Kaplan, and we wish him the best. Mac, did you have something else you wanted to say? You look
Happy trails to you.
like... Cool. Let's talk about VR.
Yes.
Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Do you want to talk about Xcloud or do you want to talk about VR?
Oh man.
We got 3 more minutes for news. So you get to pick.
Let's talk about Xcloud.
Let's talk about Xcloud. Microsoft Xcloud beta is expanding, everybody. This is on TheVerge.com by Tom Warren. Microsoft's Xcloud Gaming will officially arrive on iOS and PC tomorrow, April 20th. The service will arrive on devices via browsers, allowing Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscribers to play Xbox games on iPhones, iPads, and PCs. Microsoft is keeping the beta rather limited, though, and requiring players to be invited to participate in the testing phase. The service will be accessible at xbox.com/play, where Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscribers who have been invited to the beta will be able to play Xbox games through Edge, Chrome, or Safari browsers. More than 100 games will be available, and testers will be able to use a compatible Bluetooth or USB-connected controller, or simply use custom touch controls. Now, Mac, I know you don't have Game Pass, but as a guy who is into tablets a lot, you being into tablets a lot, do you still like do the gaming on the tablet, or do you just say, you know what, when I want to play these PC games, I sit down at my PC and I run through Chasm in my comfy chair with my mouse and keyboard? What's your stance on that whole thing?
Well, the latter, with the small change that I use my gamepad to do it. I think the thing that I certainly became convinced of throughout my time of, we're talking 2012 to 2016, right in that range of covering tablet-related stuff, even tablet games, is that if the game is not really built with the mobile device in mind, it suffers a lot. The user experience suffers greatly. Now, there were a lot of really cool things that I saw during my time at those tech conventions that it was just like, oh my gosh, if we could get a solid implementation of this, that could possibly change the game. Like there was this one, it was really cool. It used electrostatics to get for your screen to actually feel like it had textures on it.
What?
So yeah, it was really cool. But and it was essentially, it was kind of like a haptic feedback type of system. I still haven't seen it implemented, but Anyway, barring that, I do like to sit down at my computer and enjoy my PC games there. Also, another slight little change I'd put with your characterization, I don't actually have a comfortable chair. So,
don't? Okay.
Yeah, so if one of those game chair companies is listening by chance and, hey, just saying, I could use a comfy chair.
Hook him up.
Hook me up. But all that being said is that, yeah, I prefer to game here. I can understand the appeal of doing them on games, that is, on mobile form factors, but I still feel like, the form factor is a bit of a hindrance. Although, hey, more power to you if you like playing Counterwatch on your
Counter-Strike?
mobiles. Yeah, Counter Strength of Metals, or
So what's interesting about this? A couple weeks ago, I don't know if I messaged it to you or if you messaged it to me. It was a portable PC. Did I send that to you?
I think you may have.
And so I guess the point is, like, the whole concept of being able to play high fidelity, high frame rate performing games on the go it's just becoming more and more important to people. Like, people don't just want to sit down in front of their 65-inch 4K TV and play their Xbox. They want to be able to play it on their iPad while they're in bed. And it's so important that Microsoft has come up with Xcloud. Sony has come up with a way to do it. Nintendo has not. But like, it just blows my mind. Now, granted, you have to be on the same home network with Xbox, I believe, with Xcloud. But I mean, in a few years, we'll be taking our iPads, to the park and playing our Xboxes on. And I don't think it's quite the same experience, but I don't think that matters. Like, I think that people just want to be able to play when they want to play and where they want to play. and it's not my thing personally, but I get it. Like, I totally get wanting to do a mission in Assassin's Creed Valhalla while you're at the park on your lunch break. Like, I totally get it. And Metzgirl brings up a really valid point. Nintendo does have the Switch. And I would often take my Switch to work, and on a lunch break, I would play a little bit of Hollow Knight, or I'd play The Messenger, or I'd do some Celeste and get that in. So I totally get the importance of mobile gaming and portable gaming. So we'll see. Mac, anything else you want to add before we move on? That has been our news for the week.
All right, well, now we turn and we look a little bit to the past with some video game history. This week, in years that came before, we saw some fantastic standout games, and I think it's time to recognize some of those. We'll start with the oldest one I have in line today. First, that would be Newtopia, released for the TurboGrafx 16 in 1990. Now, obviously, a lot of us did not play Newtopia. Why? Because so few of us happened to have a TurboGrafx 16.
Right.
But it was a game that essentially took everything that was The Legend of Zelda, the first one for the NES, and redid it, and in some ways did it better. There are some aspects about it that were a little bit, unfulfilling. Like, for example, in the original Legend of Zelda, there was a lot of bombing of all these walls, or burning of all these bushes in order to try and find the entrances and such. And that's still there. It is almost a direct copy, but it is a really fun direct copy. So much so that not everybody, because again, the TurboGrafx 16, not a big console at the time, but that people who played it and had played the other one, that is to say, Legend of Zelda, felt that Newtopia was the better game. So, I mean...
It's called Newtopia?
Yeah, Newtopia. Neutopia. For the TurboGrafx 16. Mr. Nice Guy, since I know you happen to have an arcade machine, I think you should consider adding that to...
Dude, this looks awesome.
I know, right? Consider adding that to the library of your stuff down there, and give it a shot when you've got time, which will be in a little while. But
Can we give Kane a shout out real quick live?
Absolutely.
Go for it, Mac.
Kane, a glorious, beautiful, wonderful person, shows up almost every week and is incredibly generous with the gift subs to so many of our wonderful people here in the community. Kane, thank you for making us all feel the love. I hope you feel the love, because I can feel the love tonight. The peace Kane Angel Fire brings. The chat for once in perfect harmony with all somethings. So, that's right, Moocher. Kane does need a hug, and here it comes. Hug for you, sir.
Boom.
But that's just the first of many that are to be spoken about tonight, because we can't forget 3 amazing games. I'm going to hit them real quick right in a row for time, but that all deserve their time in the limelight. Fez, released in 2012 on the Xbox 360.
Great game.
Terrific game. I loved it. Okami, released on the Wii in 2008. Practically a work of art. If you haven't, you owe it to yourself. Super Metroid, released on the Super Nintendo in 1994. Oh, mwah. Amazing. Fantastic. Terrific. Worth a playthrough if you haven't, of course. And then, I think, the cherry on top. Released in 2011 for the PC, Portal 2.
Oh, yes.
Yes. The return of Gladys. The introduction of Wheatley, voiced by... His name escapes me right now. I can see him. He's that tall, lanky dude who's always hanging around with Ricky Gervais. But you know, he's gonna come back to me.
Such a good game, dude. It's
Oh,
it's like a top
mhm,
5 of all time. Like, it's the perfect combo of humor, good gameplay, and strategy. Like,
mhm.
just a brilliant it's a masterpiece. If you haven't played Portal 2, please do.
Indeed. Galvatron helps me out with the name Stephen Merchant, and that's right. That's the name. And man, just love it. It's fantastic. A worthy successor, improving on mechanics already established, a dynamite ending, a Portal 2. You owe it to yourself. And if you have the opportunity, let's not forget that last week's Nerdflex, it was a question about Portal 2. Atlas and Peabody, the name of the two very lovable robots that you get to
Yes.
play as in that game when you
Yes,
play it
sir.
cooperatively. So, anyway, that's just been a little bit of video game history for you. We cannot forget our roots, and hopefully, if you don't already have memories of these wonderful games, fix that. Fix it, you won't be disappointed.
Yes. Well, speaking of old school games, let's talk about our topic of the week, a segment where we talk about something relevant in gaming and give our opinions on it. Mac, this is one that's very interesting to me, and I know will be very interesting to you. As we frequently talk about the importance of physical versus digital, we talk about the importance of game preservation. This one comes from Kotaku.com. And, what is going on? Let's minimize this. Oh, come on, technology. Don't do it to me live. All right, here's the article. It's from Kotaku.com by Ash Paris. Ash Parrish, excuse me. Today, Sony announced that it will no longer shut down the PlayStation Store for PS3 and Vita users. Can you believe that? Recently we notified players that PlayStation Store for PS3 and PS Vita devices were planned to end this summer, unquote, wrote Sony's interactive president and CEO Jim Ryan on the PlayStation blog. Upon further reflection, however, it's clear that we made the wrong decision here. So today I'm happy to say that we will be keeping the PlayStation Store operational for PS3 and PS Vita devices. PSP commerce functionality will retire on July 2nd, 2021 as planned. The sudden reversal comes only weeks after Sony confirmed rumors that it would plan on shuttering its digital content stores on older consoles. The move was largely criticized, with people noting that shutting down the store on older consoles would make it harder to play certain digital-only games. So, Mac, like, what? I just want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
What do you think, dude?
I'm shaking my head. I'm telling you this because it's an audio medium. I'm shaking my head because there are a couple things in there that I feel like are cagey at best. But we talked about this in episode 182 as part of video game history, and what it meant for those digital exclusives that were released. And it says made it difficult. What was it? Made it difficult to play. Made it difficult to buy. Was that what it was?
Difficult to play digital games.
Difficult to play. I think the digital exclusives would have made it impossible to play them under the conditions that we described, because once the store is closed, there's no longer a clock for the game console to sync to. So if there's anything goes wrong, bam, you lose it all. So I mean, not just difficult, impossible, and that's the key there. Now, as I'm sure we're all aware, when they include like legal language in their terms and service meant to stop any legal action if the service like goes down, right? So that they're not on the hook for stuff. And which means they're not legally going to be on the hook for anything, but it's very encouraging to me that we've made it, and by we, I mean all of you beautiful people out there in listener land. All the gamers. Apparently, all of us, we talked about it, and they backpedaled on it, and that's fantastic. I'm thrilled to hear that.
Yeah, me too. But here's my question for you though, because when we hear that they're taking stuff down, I at least assume that it's a money thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it costs money to store these files, right?
Yep.
Server space,
Mm-hmm.
bandwidth, et cetera, maintenance. You have to update them every once in a while, even if they're not really getting played. But all it took was enough people complaining and saying, "Hey, don't take that down. We still want that," right? So is it a money thing, or is it what is it? If it's just community outrage that results in them reversing their course so quickly, why were they going to take it down in the first place?
Well, I'm putting a pin in that question because I need to answer it in two different ways. Number one, I want to answer it the way that they answered it, that specifically Jim Ryan, president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, answered it in his announcement. How did he phrase it? Quote, "I'm so glad we were able to find a solution to continue operations." End quote. Which sounds like it wasn't a money thing. Doesn't that sound like it wasn't a money thing? Doesn't it sound like there was like some kind of technical problem that they had to figure out how to solve?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was not. It was a money thing. It's 100% a money thing, Mr. Nice Guy. Always has been, always will be. Now, combined with that, I mean, it's as simple as I think it's one of these like phrases that I've got hanging around from undergrad, right? So I mean, like I don't know which class it came from, but it's called the Overton Window.
Tell us about it.
So the Overton Window is the idea that your expectations on, let's say you've got a spectrum, from from red to green. You've got like the Roy G. Biv, rainbow spectrum going on, right?
Yeah.
And you've got this window on it. And the window can be shifted over time from expectations. So whereas at some point in time, you might be like, we should never go into the red. We should always stay nice in the comfortable orange. But eventually, over time, you're so used to things hitting into the red, it now feels like, well, we should never go into the violet. Red is kind of the average now, so we shouldn't.
Right.
And it's this sort of idea where I feel like I'm kind of taking crazy pills from time to time because I say stuff like, when I buy a game, it should, I don't know, keep working for as long as I darn well feel like playing it. And I feel like people look at me and are like, but Mac, how would that possibly work? And I mean, it's not a technical challenge to overcome. It is sheerly a monetary challenge. And that Overton window has shifted to the point where, like, if I said, when I buy a game, and this is one of those things that I talked about back in Legalese back in the 90s when I did my great unified rant on video game, consumer rights in video games.
Yeah.
That basically, if you were to ask anyone from, say, pre-2004, like you look at the terms of service from a game in, say, 99, it would say, you own this software, just don't distribute it. It would say you own stuff. In around 2004, language changed to you are buying a temporary and revocable license.
Right.
A move spearheaded by Disney, I might point out once again.
Oh, come on.
No, seriously. The first ever usage I can find of that language comes from Disney games. So I'm just saying they pushed.
All right. Okay. I'll concede that point.
Okay. But that being said, I feel like, we're talking to somebody in the early 2000s and we tell them about, games being shut down, things, they would be like, well, that's crazy. That's madness. But the window's shifted that it's like, well, I mean, I guess if I get to play it for 2 years after launch, that's good enough for me. Sorry.
Oh, you
got me worked up, Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, that's why I knew this would be a great topic. So Galvatron in the chat says, that's the problem with modern day EULAs, user licensing agreements. Gaming companies have the unbridgeable right to pull the license for their game at any time, and they don't even need cause. Yeah, he's 100% right about that. There's the PS3 has such a huge community. I literally know people who have a PS3 and do not have a PS4 and do not have a PS5. And they particularly use the PS3 for Blu-rays, but they also use it for gaming occasionally. And, those core gamers who maybe buy a console once every 15 years and then just play it forever, they want to be able to play those digital games. So I totally get that community exists. the people like us who, we do stuff on PC or we upgrade our consoles, like our friends in the chat, like core gamers, we think, well, the PS3 is 10 years old, guys, 12 years old. Come on. But that community exists and they were vocal enough to get a victory here, like Mac said. And I think it's phenomenal. That's all I have to say about that, Mac. What else do you have to say about this topic?
Victory to the resistance.
That has been our topic of the week.
All right, well, now we turn to a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off of the ground. You know what this is. We call this Kick or Kickstart because we want to know what you think. We're going to post a link to the crowdfunding project in the chat. We're going to discuss it live for the first time, and then we want you to tell us whether you think it should be kickstarted or whether it should be kicked out of here. This is called Pie Packer. Pie Packer.
Okay.
But don't be fooled by the amusing title. Instead, we're going to dig a little bit deeper. This is a project seeking $75,000. They've got 30 days left to go, and they're 80% of the way there. So now what's going on here is there's two components to the Pie Packer. There is a browser side and a console question mark. Pie Packer's browser side handles almost everything that's going on with this, including multiplayer, a chat, and free access when it launches later this year. And what exactly is it doing? It is acting as a emulator for games from basically Master System and NES up to about the PS1. It's supposed to launch later this year. Now, the important thing, and what I need to stress, is that this is basically an emulator being run in a browser. No installation going on, so presumably most of the emulation is happening server-side, I assume. But the idea here is to permit multiplayer of games that you like from the bygone eras. Now, $40 is your minimum buy-in to get to be a part of this project at all. And that buys you premium access to the digital side of things, which includes the ability to load your games via ROM files if you provide them, again, presumably up to PS1, since some of the built-in free library that they have already includes a PS1 game or two. But be warned, though, the premium membership is a monthly thing, unless you buy at the $90 or $100 range, which provides you with lifetime premium membership. But at that point in time, why not just go for the console, which is the Pi Reader that lets you use your own library of games, provided they are NES, SNES, or game or Mega Drive / Genesis. Now, that $100 buy-in gets you the console and opens up one of the three options because you get to pick one of NES, SNES, or Genesis, and then $25 for each additional add-on if you want to have, adapters for all three. So what that would let you do is that would let you plug in the cartridges that you already have, load up the ROM from the cartridge you have, allowing you to play that either, locally, which is why it has 4 USB ports there, or as well play it network connected as well. So, what is this? It is basically Retroarch, which is an open source multi-platform emulator that you can get for free, but with lots of extra bells and whistles, like the video chat and such. Now, you can already do everything that this provides. You can already do Retroarch for free. You can already do multiplayer via these emulators for free already.
Correct. I'm glad you're pointing this out.
But not all packaged together, which it seems like this is super accessible for people. And as such, seems like it would be a nice way to do things, especially because it is all done within browser. And as long as one of your friends happens to have the premium access to load up whatever other games beyond the small, and it is a small, library that they currently have, then, yeah, then you can play alongside them. Now, next month, people are supposed to get access to the platform. That's the backers. And then when it launches later this year, everybody else will be able to hop on for free. And then in October, people should be getting their consoles. So, all that thrown out there, Mr. Nice Guy, any thoughts?
Dude, this is like okay, so there's part of me that gets really excited when I see this
Mm-hmm.
because I buy this and then I put the link together and then Maction can play with me. We could play old school Mario Kart. You don't have to download anything is what I'm understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just opened my web browser. I use the link that you provided to open my web browser to that thing, and then, yep, we're off and away.
And then I assume these people each have their own individual webcams, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
they're showing up in the browser. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that must be integrated into the thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so this is a little different than RetroArch. Like,
It is. It has a few more bells and whistles stapled on. Specifically, the video chat component is added on top of the emulation that's going on.
okay, so here's what I like about this. I like that it's going to make a lot of people who maybe aren't as tech savvy have the ability to play those old school games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because RetroArch is like, if someone doesn't know what they're doing and they're across the country, then you got to troubleshoot over the phone, right? And that could be a hassle. I like that there's a physical component. It's not just a digital membership. I don't like that it's a digital membership at all, though. We literally just talked about this in the last segment. Like, it's a lifetime membership until they get sued. You know what I mean? And I think that that's almost inevitable with this.
Oh, well,
So
but
I don't know.
Mr. Nice
I'm on
Guy,
the fence.
Mr. Nice Guy, in their frequently asked questions, somebody does ask, is this legal? And they do say, well, I'll just let them say it. Is PiePacker legal? PiePacker is proud to be an alternative to online piracy and share value creation with creators. PiePacker secures legit licensing deals with each game publisher. We have the rights to distribute every game on the platform. They're talking about the $60, the 60 games that are already built in. Furthermore, if you already own the retro games at home, whether digital or physical, bring your own game and our Pi Reader will allow you to bring them to the platform to play with your friends online. I do love how they dodged the issue. Now, again, we know those of you who've listened to this podcast have heard on various legalese segments, we have tackled ad nauseum how emulators are legal and have been repeatedly found legal despite the best efforts of several game companies. But nonetheless, I did find it funny, the evasive non-answering of the question to a very easily answerable question like that.
Yeah. So if anyone here, I don't know if Spennis is still here or Alex, man. If anyone here has ever played Jackbox games, where like one person hosts the game and then anyone who has a phone can join in and you can just like have a blast playing. Like, this is the same concept, right?
Yeah, basically.
It just makes it way more accessible. Now, I'm excited about the idea of me saying, hey, who wants to play Mario 64, right? And then I boot up Mario 64. Now, granted, my friends all need to have a compatible controller, right? And that could be a challenge depending on what game you're playing.
Yeah, they do supposedly have very wide compatibility with controllers, and mapability, as I understand, is something that they're still working on with the controllers. But yeah, conceivably, if you've got a game that will support 4 players, they can hop on and be a part of it. Now,
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know how much it would interfere with, say, Twitch streaming of a party game like this, but it certainly seems like it would be an easy way to get a couch co-op feel going.
This is one of those things that you see it and you get excited. I'm excited when I see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, this would be great because my brother lives across the country and we game occasionally on Switch. But I would love to say, hey, man, let's play some old school games just like we used to back in the summer. But Mac, this is one of those things that you buy and it wears off real quick. Like, you'll never use it as much as you think you will. At least me. And to me, that's exactly what would happen here. It would get used for a couple months, and then it would just collect dust.
Well, and in that case, remember that if you happen to have perfectly legitimately sourced ROMs, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, then just going for one person, going for that $40 range is going to get you, I think, 6 months or so of premium, and in premium you can load whatever ROMs you want. So if you think you're going to tire of it quickly, maybe that's a decent option. Although at some point in time I'm just like, I might be just as soon buying a full lifetime license to be able to fire it up, because I have a lot of not technically savvy people for whom I would love to play alongside.
Right.
But for something like you and me, Mr. Nice Guy, we could get Retroarch working between the two of us.
Yeah, I've used it. It's fun.
Yeah, and we could do it to play something online. I think this is trying to target people who want that old couch co-op feel, but don't have the willingness to go digging through Retroarch in order to make it work. And I mean, to some extent, I say more power to them. This, however, I have to say, is not for me. I have to say kick it.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. It's not for me, but I don't think it's like so gimmicky that it's a ripoff of RetroArch. I mean, they're giving people something physical. It sounds like you could also use the thing to do your ROMs or your physical games in the case of the console individually. So like $90 for an NES, right? Plus the ability to do other ROMs. So just so we're clear, the console could do physical ROMs of one type unless you buy the adapter, but also digital ROMs across the board, correct?
Yeah, so you can, as long as you've got the premium membership, you can do the ROMs. But if you have the console, then you can load the cartridges that you have. And basically what it's going to do is it's just going to dump your cartridge as a ROM into the system, and you'll play that ROM file, is what it's going to do.
Okay, so I like that. What I don't like is that because there's literally consoles you can buy that play multiple cartridges from different systems, and they're charging $25 extra for each additional type that you want. I don't like that. But overall, Mac, I gotta say, kickstart this.
Okay.
I think that anything that makes gaming more accessible for people that aren't tech savvy is a good thing, and I think that the price point is reasonable. So I'm going to say kickstart.
You know I said kick just a minute ago, but dude, what you just said really resonated with me. If it makes it more accessible. And yeah, this is really doing that. I've got to pivot. I've got to reverse course on that and say kickstart. You talked me into it, Mr. Nice Guy, and I'm coming with you on this journey. So we say kickstart. So far we've got kicks in the chat, so just in time for us to prove unpopular in our opinions. We wish Pie Packer it's almost a foregone conclusion at this point that they're going to get all the funding that they need. We hope that it works out well for them, and we'll see how it goes from here. But that's been Kick or Kickstart.
Awesome. It is time for Nerdflex.
Woo-hoo.
A segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the hosts. And last week, I think we did pretty well, didn't we? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was a clean sweep in our favor. Yeah, 3 out of 3.
Yeah. So this week, come with those questions in the chat right now, gaming-related, multiple choice preferably, and see if you can stump us. Mac, is it time to do
a sound test? Nope. The last sound test we did was in episode 183. That has still been unclaimed, of course. Those of you who are in the Discord, pinned at the top of the Two Nerds in a Pod channel, there is a list of all of the unclaimed sound tests. These are the ones that you can go check out and hopefully win yourself a prize like, I don't know, maybe you might want a shiny Two Nerds in a Pod pin to pin upon your backpack or shirt. Let the world know that you're a fan of the nerdiest gaming podcast.
That's right. And we just got our first question from Kane, the man, the myth, the legend, who gifted so many subs this week. In each of the Elder Scrolls games, the player plays a hero who saves the day. and is lost to history after the events of the game, never to be seen again, except for possibly one who is strongly hinted to show up in a second game. Which hero was it? That's a great question, Mac. Did you
Ooh.
follow that question?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Here's the multiple choice. A, the Eternal Champion from Arena. B, the hero of Daggerfall from Daggerfall. C, the Neververine from Morrowind. Or D, hero of Kvatch from Oblivion.
Oh man, this is really really rough because the only one of the Elder Scrolls games that I have bothered to, look at the lore has been Morrowind. And I feel like I feel like I'm really lost. But with a name like the Eternal Champion, oh.
That could be a hint.
Yeah, I feel like the Eternal Champion feels like that. But what do you think, Mr. Nice Guy?
I honestly have no idea. And the only Elder Scrolls game that I've really played is, guess which one? Skyrim. So, but I don't know, man. I kind of lean towards the Eternal Champion as well. It almost seems like that's something that Bethesda would do. Name him that and have him be the one that's in more than one game.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's too obvious. I feel like it's obviously not that. But I can't think of anything better, so I guess it's A for us.
Let's go with it. We're going to go with a final answer. Let us know in the chat what the right one is. Ralph, have a good time at work. Mac, do you want to read question number 2 from Moocher?
Certainly. So Moocher's question is, why? Oh, hang on. We'll do. So the answer is D, the hero of Kvatch. In the quest, the Mind of Madness in Skyrim, the player can meet Shoggoth, who the player may have become, which makes many references to events in Oblivion. I see. Yep. Unfortunately, my lack of having played Skyrim once again destroys our chances.
My bad.
Should have known. All right. So Moocher's question is, why do certain chain chomps bark like dogs? Is that A, because they are Mario's pets, the ones that bark like dogs? Is that B, because Miyamoto loves dogs? Is that C, because a dog scared him, I assume Miyamoto, as a child? Or D, that Peach wanted a dog and it's all that Mario could give her?
So one thing we know about Nintendo is that many of their ideas are because of Miyamoto's hobbies and life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Pikmin, I believe, is because of his love of gardening. There's others. So I believe that the answer is going to be one of those that relates to Miyamoto.
So B or C?
Yeah, B or C. And
I think I'm more inclined towards B than C, personally.
Are you? Okay.
Because there's the game Nintendogs, and that probably has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but...
I was inclined towards C at first.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going
to... The only reason is because chain chomps are not nice in the game. Like, they're trying to get Mario.
True.
And so it makes sense that if he was scared of them, that he'd be like, yeah, they're kind of evil. Dogs, they chomp at people.
Okay.
So to me, I think it's C.
And you've played more Mario than I have, so I'm going to go with your gut instinct on this, Mr. Nice Guy. We will go with C.
C, final answer, Moocher. Let us know in the chat. We got one last question from Spennis. The 1990s released a lot of famous arcade fighters. Which of the following franchises had a game that was released first? Tekken, Soul Calibur, Marvel vs. Capcom, Fatal Fury, or Mortal Kombat? Oh, I think that's easy.
Ooh, I feel like it's either got to be Mortal Kombat or Tekken.
Yeah, I lean towards Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But Fatal Fury, this is tough. Hey, first of all, Moocher says, when Miyamoto was a child, a dog barked and chased at him until its chain caught him and held him back. So it wasn't Miyamoto that is scared dogs. He was scared of
Nice.
dogs.
Mr.
Nice.
Nice Guy, good instincts. So back to this question about fighters. I feel like, oh man. Yeah, I feel like of them, Tekken had the sort of early 3D polygons. But Mortal Kombat had a sprite-based rotoscope thing. Even though it was kind of like photos, it was still, it was still the technology there seemed to be lower.
So
So
here's
I'm
here's the
inclined toward
thing.
Mortal Kombat for that reason.
The only thing is, let's think about this because
Mhm.
Mortal Kombat first came out on the Super Nintendo, and the
Did
Super Nintendo,
did it?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, and the Super Nintendo came out what, like
Oh,
95, 96?
Thank you, Galvatron. I'm thinking Virtua Fighter, not Tekken.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. So, I mean, Mortal Kombat couldn't have come out before the SNES, and that was like 95, 96, right? I
Uh,
remember getting a Super Nintendo, birthday 5th grade. So 95. I'm dating myself.
okay.
But that's not necessarily right when it came out, though.
Yeah. Do you think your parents bought it on
No,
release?
no. My
Okay.
parents were cool. They were cool. I have fantastic parents, but not into games like that. So, when did SNES come out? I thought it was Mortal Kombat 2, and I might just stick with Mortal Kombat. What do you think?
Um. Well, now you've got me second guessing.
Well,
Uh.
yeah, because when did Mario World come out? That was like 91, 92, right? So yeah, it could have been Mortal Kombat. I'm gonna go with Mortal Kombat, unless you want to go a different route.
I'm with you on Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat final answer. Let us know in the chat.
A.R. Wilson, thanks for asking. I do not play MLB The Show. That's just because I have terrible taste. And I don't have, like, current gen consoles, just a PC. So, yeah. And I'm also a sports ball expert in theory, but actually playing sports ball, not much my thing. So, that extends to video games as well.
Yep, yep. Cool. So Spennis, let us know in the chat the answer to that question. Hopefully, it is Mortal Kombat.
It actually is Fatal Fury. Fatal Fury's first game was
Dang.
released in November 1991, 9 months after the iconic Street Fighter II, and almost a year before Mortal Kombat, which was released in 1992. Spennis, great question. We went 1 for 3 this time around, but I still feel like those are respectable scores. Thank you for bringing your nerdiness to bear on us. Hopefully, we will impress a bit more next time.
Cool.
So, this now brings us to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast, and I was actually going to talk about the closure of the PS Store and Sony backtracking that during
Oh,
legalese.
what?
But that's okay because I always come prepared with at least one other thing to talk about, just in the off chance. So you might recall that in episode 169, which was the final episode of 2020, we talked about Zajonic v Electronic Arts. This is the suit that was talking all about how EA was engaging in deceptive practices, right? False advertising and the like. And they based a lot of that around the idea that because Electronic Arts was just like, oh, this is a true-to-life experience, they're like, well, it can't possibly be a true-to-life experience because, look, you are changing things in order to make, certain teams more competitive than they would be in real life, to nerf certain teams in your Electronic Arts games. But they also contended in the suit that EA was using specific algorithms in order to adjust the difficulty in order to incentivize people to buy more loot boxes. That
Yep.
was the second part of their suit. It was the one that I found much more interesting and entertaining than the first pit, but the suit has apparently been dropped by Zajonic, by the plaintiffs. Now, according to EA, and remember it's EA who's saying it, so take this with a grain of salt, after Zajonic et al., those guys, were given a chance to talk with engineers at EA and were provided with technical information, they opted to drop the suit. And a spokesman for the company said that while EA does own a patent for dynamic difficulty adjustment technology, that tech was never in FIFA, Madden, or NHL and never will be, end quote. I don't believe that, any of that, but it is what they said, and because it was said outside of the courtroom, it's not like it's not like they're going to get in trouble if they're fibbing about it. But what we do know is that Zajonic v Electronic Arts will not be shedding light through the course of a lawsuit and discovery on how exactly EA is using its patents for dynamic difficulty adjustment, and if, in fact, it is using that in order to incentivize people to buy loot boxes. So, at the very least, this suit cannot go the distance and tell us how exactly this patent that Sony owns or that EA owns is being used, or even if it's being used at all. So, some sad news, but hey, that's just some legalese for you.
Nice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to end the show, but it's also time for one of my favorite segments called What We've Been Playing and What We've Been Watching, also known as What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that, the cool nerdy stuff we've been into. You know the drill. If you're here live, you got a job to do. Let us know in the chat the cool stuff you have been watching on all of your devices, all of your services, all the stuff you've been playing on all your consoles, PCs, phones. Mac, what have you been into this week?
Dude, so I have watched a little series you recommended to me last week called Invincible. I quite enjoyed it. I was a little bit shocked. It was
I told you.
It's not what I expected for you to recommend to me. It's brutal.
It's gory.
Have you seen The Boys?
I couldn't do The Boys.
Yeah, no.
I couldn't.
I get it.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't watch that one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It was too much.
It was just too much. But
I gave
so
it a shot.
if we got The Boys up here, and then we've got Batman the Animated Series down here, it's kind of right here in the middle. Invincible.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So if you need a good in between, that's an option. I've also been watching some Stargate SG-1, as well as Twilight Zone. The real sad thing is that Twilight Zone seasons 1, 2, 3, and 5 are all shorter episodes. They're all 30 minutes long. Well, a little bit shorter because, television commercial breaks, that sort of thing. Season 4, they did hour-long episodes, and those hour-long episodes were fan-freaking-tastic. But because of licensing issues, you can't actually find those on, say, Netflix, where it is currently streaming. So, yeah, you've got to either buy them from CBS or, have them on DVD in order to enjoy those longer episodes, which, like I said, were some of my personal favorites. So, anyway, but I do like the Twilight Zone, and it will always be in rotation for viewing for me.
Nice. Dude, it's been a good week. This has been a weird week. I haven't felt like gaming. And that's rare. Like, I just haven't felt like sitting down at my PC and doing that. And so I've done a lot more show watching. So I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, watching Invincible, watching Mighty Ducks Game Changers, just a feel-good show, Mac. Did you like the Mighty Ducks growing up? Were you into that? Gordon Bombay and the boys?
Well, I mean...
Underdogs.
I might have been a Bash brother. Just saying.
You were a Bash brother. What?
Oh, yeah.
That's ridiculous. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff like that, and honestly, we've been traveling trying to get stuff done, so I haven't had as much time. But I will tell you this: the one game that I have been playing is Hearthstone. Um, Speaking of mobile gaming, it's just a collectible card game, free to play by Blizzard, and I've been getting a lot of that in as I'm sitting around eating lunch and things like that. So didn't get as much gaming in, but did get some watching in, and that's it for me. Mac, what are the people into in the chat?
All right. Uncle Ruckus is watching Entourage, The Sopranos, and Linus Tech Tips videos on YouTube.
I like his videos.
Let's see. Galvatron's been watching Psych 2, Lassie Come Home, Beware the Batman, Mayor of Easttown, and Snowpiercer. Metzgirl is watching The Good Place for the second time. Excellent choice. Gravity Falls, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the original Muppet movie from '79. And Spennis is watching Mighty Ducks, Rocket Power, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And that looks like what everybody's watching.
Nice. Now, as far as what people are playing, Moocher says if you want a good baseball game, he imported Pro Yaku Spirits on PS3 and PS4. It's really fun, and he doesn't like sports or sports games, so that's good to know. Ruckus is playing Satisfactory, MLB The Show 21 on Xbox, and Valheim. Moocher has been playing Tomb Raider Underworld on PS3. It's so fun, and the graphics really hold up. Galvatron said he's watching that. Kane is playing Stardew Valley, Dredgers, Pathfinder, and Scion. Bennis is playing MLB The Show 21, Fall Guys, Forza Motorsport 7, Super Mario 3D World. And he'll start Bowser's Fury soon. Metzgro's playing Stardew Valley, D&D, and Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is so good. And Galvatron is playing MLB The Show 21, Gato Roboto, Hitman 3, and Monster Train. And that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the show. This has been episode number 185. If you liked what you heard, we'll be back next week. Same bat place, same bat time, same bat rhymes. Twitch.tv/2nerds in a pod, 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain. Leave a review, leave a like, share it with your friends, and be excellent to each other. Bye.
See ya. Excellent.
Outro.